We got 4.
Great, roll call. Richard Heisman. Anna Dakin. Tanya Elias.
Yes.
Peter Argentine. Rob Mackey, here. Kelly O'Brodnick.
Here.
Tom Shepchuk, here. We have a welcome stand-in for commission representation tonight.
Hi, yeah, Commissioner Flynn's trying to get reelected so he can keep working with y'all. So he asked me to fill in and I was excited to see you guys.
Thank you, Commissioner. Rudy Sukol, here. Philip, here. Okay, we have a quorum. Citizens comments, 5 minutes each.
Check if I think Sandy's over here. She jumped off. Oh, that was ours. Sandy Moorhead. Nothing online.
We'll have some citizens later for park update, project updates, hopefully.
Awesome.
Approval of October minutes. I read through. Comments? No. Move to approve. Second. All in favor? All right. Approve of park minutes, or last month's minutes.
Second.
Okay, minutes approved. Thank you. Public works updates, grounds and facilities, trees, etc. Phil and Rudy, please.
Got a couple things are Bradford and field improvement you guys can cross off. That was completed. The earthwork was completed in 2 days.
Nice.
It was pushed back a little bit for weather, but they got in there. It was hard to tell how they even moved multiple triaxles of dirt through the field. It was played on in the evenings while they were working. We didn't lose any field time.
Wow.
The thing starting to germinate right now, it's fenced off from deer, kids being kids, waiting while their older brother, sister plays next to them. So it probably will not be ready for spring play. And we'll judge how well the root zone establishes and if there's a real sense of going on it late summer, fall, but we'll stay in touch with the rec side of that with programming associations. So we have some emails started between them. So we're all talking. So
So what percentage of the field is playable and not right now?
it's as is as everyone's used to.
Yeah.
But it will add an additional, I forget how many square feet I threw in there, but
Nice.
I guess picture another, I'd call it a quarter, really.
30%, that's what I'd say, 25,
Nice.
30%, yeah.
Yeah.
That's
It
awesome.
used to be infield, but now it's
Yeah.
smooth and it'll be grassed and it's looking good. The guy did a really nice job.
So
The,
maybe not spring, but you'll tell the sports groups.
yep, we'll stay in the loop with them. The fence work was done, punched out, pretty cut and dry. Looks good, looks safe. Is a very presentable, nice little field over there. Over at Seymour and Middle, we replaced 210 foot of curled fencing, which was kind of the next thing on our radar in terms of working through keeping our fence maintenance up. It's something we heard last year, so we increased service level and took to it this year.
That's Seymour.
Seymour and Middle, so it'd be Seymour first base, Middle
Below the
left
pole,
field.
below the pole, that walkway that goes along there, along that back hill.
And we saw a good amount of people climbing over to go get balls that were kicked over. We added a gate halfway through. I watched it being used today, so it was worth it.
Oh.
Just even if one person used it, that was great. So that's all good over there. We winterized all the parks this past couple of weeks. Even though the temperatures are fantastic right now, when we have enough able-bodied hands, we got to do it to keep moving on.
Yeah.
So that would be your drinking fountains, bathrooms, everything like that.
Mhm.
And in doing that, we prepped for the concession stand, restrooms and main park restrooms all down there are gonna get new epoxy floor coatings this year. So we removed toilets completely to allow the contractor to get a nice finish edge, up to the, not work around toilets, because that would be pretty hard. So that's prep for them.
Main and then the ball field. So
Yes,
like
that whole
two
thing, the
bathrooms. Those are only.
2 bathrooms
bathrooms.
and the concession stand in the back
Concession.
storage area,
Yeah,
so.
nice.
We'll get all that flooring, to a nice, solid surface. It's more, it's really an aesthetic improvement, really. And with that, the fixtures in Main Park, when we remove them, they are fully removed. We're gonna put new, toilets, urinals, sinks, faucets. It's just gonna be a kind of a nice refresh in there, so. Nothing was broken or out of service. It was just older.
Yeah.
So we're gonna do that. You'll see new dispensers going in. We're gonna see if there's an option maybe for some electric hand dryers. Might help us with as far as stocking of supplies and weekend runouts with high group demand. So we'll work through that, and if we get some nice weather through the winter, then we'll pop in there and do that work. So, but we are shut down across the park system. Over at Main Park, kind of continued on stuff that the group had mentioned before, reducing some mulch beds, turning back to grass. Not just like wiping out landscape completely, kind of reducing it, making it more manageable. That was feedback that we got, so we continued with that. About 40 native grasses were planted throughout. We find the maintenance of them to be a lot easier than some of these boxwoods and stuff that we're seeing that are getting disease, bugs, and it seems to be a pretty hardy plant over there.
So these are clump.
Yeah, some
Plant, they kind of.
correct, but keep a low profile because the vision is important up there to see multiple kids, multiple ages at the playground, so.
Gotcha.
Really it was just replacing original plants, getting us back to what was originally planted there. It wasn't really an ad, so to speak, but should help with maintenance for the spring. We've done that the last 2 years, and I know our contractor that goes through there is makes his life easier and keeps the look of it, fresh over there. Also working with the rec department reached out to us. May have someone interested. I don't know if it's basketball association or who it exactly was, but we're getting a count of exactly what all of our outdoor courts look like in terms of the hardware. There's an interest in maybe an outside group funding new bank boards for Iroquois, Rockwood, stuff like that. So we're gonna do our homework first to make sure that a nice style was picked, one that keeps up well. We did clear acrylic before and it kind of got a little funky outside. The plastic or that, whatever that material was, swirled a good bit. So it wasn't the best. So we're gonna look back into that before we partner with that group, hopefully. Our signage visits were done all across parks. If you remember, our first phase of this is just straight up identifying our parks. So we went through that based on the comments I got with the groups that we went out with. I'm now working through getting the RFQ finalized. Kalana, who did the design, will look through that RFQ for us. He actually asked, he said, please send that to me. I'll look through it, see if there's anything you're missing or anything that'll help you get a more narrowed down scope. We are gonna print 1 or 2 of them, probably each kind, a field ID sign in a park, on a much cheaper corrugated material. Take it up to the site, put it in, see what it looks like before we commit any further. Because we had some discussions at the fields of enlarging the scale to put fence mount IDs on the ball fields down there. It made sense. So we're gonna do one to make sure that, our thought process and what we think it will look like turns out that way. Other than that, today we had a internal or staff and our consultant meeting for the Main Park master plan. Just had our 3rd workshop with them. Rudy, myself, Ian McMeans, David over at Rec, sat down, looked at some things that might be in the works. So the Main Park master plan is still moving. I don't really have a indication of timeline, deliverables, anything like that. So I'm sure it'll be advertised and put out there at some point. We just winterized the vibrant uptown just to tie in with the irrigation and plantings and everything like that. So we had a nice rundown from the plumbing or the irrigation subcontractor. Showed us where everything is, schedules, piping, things to look for in the spring and the fall. They'll owe us a startup as well in the spring. So we'll go back out with them, fire everything back on, make sure it works. That's all drip irrigation throughout the bed center. So
How do you winterize it? Do you compress air?
yeah, there's a compressor and valves that need opened along those lines. But very, very simple. So that went on today, not really parks, but it's a big group of plantings and something you might be interested in. So that's all I have. We might have someone tree planting or.
That's about it. We're
That's it.
fully into leaf collection right now. We're running about a half a day behind just because of the volumes of leaves and so forth, but the guys are doing a really good job. We're working 10 hours a day, 6 days a week right now. Just trying to keep up with it. Yeah, with five of those collectors. And we are trying to plant trees. We received 85 bulb and burlap trees from the nursery last week. And we have the guys finished the west section. I think they planted 25 or 30 trees over there, replacement trees that were removed the previous year. And now they're working in the north section. We hope to finish that up by the end of the week. Get all 85 of those in the ground. Be finished with them.
What 6 days do they do leaf cut?
Monday through Saturday. Yeah, we give them Sunday off.
Good.
They have rest.
I'm a Monday trash pickup. My
You'd be Friday, leaf collection, correct? Yeah. Yeah.
So what's typically done on Saturdays then, like?
We're usually behind on Fridays.
Catch up.
Saturdays are catch up. Saturdays are catch up day. And we also pick up bags off of main roads and dead end streets and alleys on Saturday, all exclusively on Saturday.
Okay.
So we have 2 dump trucks that go out with hand crews that throw the bags into the trucks and all into the sites.
And where do we do with the leaves now?
Shred them and then a contractor comes in and hauls them off.
Is
They
it
turn
golf
into
course, or
compost.
do we still do Rob Hollow with golf
Both,
course? Okay,
yeah,
good.
golf course and Rob Hollow. We are exclusively grinding. We only have one grinder, so we're working at the Rob Hollow site right now. Once all those leaves are finished and shredded, we'll move the grinder over to the other site. It'll be hauled off and cleaned by the end of the year. And then back and forth, yeah. So we make one move to the golf course because it costs about $500 out of that machine moved. It takes a really big truck to move that.
Is that the beast?
Yeah, the beast grinder, yeah. So we get it over there and then that's where we operate all summer. So the Saturday collections,
Yeah,
the curbside wood collection, waste collection, everything we pick up with that by hand with our guys. Then we have the first Saturday of the month, we have the drop offs. That all takes place at the golf course. So we leave the grinder there the whole year, whole summer. We make basically 2 moves per year with that machine.
All right, back to winterizing the restroom facilities. Are restroom facilities outdoor, like the freestanding ones, I guess, closed all winter then?
There's no heat in them.
They have no heat.
Nothing has any heat.
So as we contemplate, like talking the comp plan requests from the Parks Master Plan about restrooms, like there is a limit, at least with our restrooms now, there's a limitation. You're not gonna have it for a football game.
They brought that up.
in
They
mid-November.
mentioned that this morning when we had our meeting, yeah. Conceptually, and trying to fit things in and add additional space for additional restroom facilities. Because of the travel distance and so forth and the number of toilets and things that you have now in the existing restrooms to add some, but add them in different places so that people won't have to travel as far.
anybody online want to say anything?
And welcome, Peter. Peter Argentine.
It's muted.
Okay.
The last thing is we wrapped up there was a late email, probably closer to 4. If you guys check, sent you out a list of maps in terms of what our current service level for invasives got this year.
Treatment areas.
Treatment areas, I don't have square footages on there, I can get them on there. Some areas were a mix of lichen log and then in-house, so they're not cut and dry as far as like this whole map was lichen log. There were some spots that were easier for us to get in terms of access, getting them keys for gates where it made more sense for us to do them when it had time. So there was kind of new areas this year where it was not anything major, but some knotweed encroaching on Clearview Commons on that back hill area, but that could easily spread down the railroad tracks.
Yeah.
You know, and look pretty bad in future years, so, we're keeping an eye over there, treated a little bit. Over at Williamsburg, the top end of it off Earlswood, there's a giant knotweed patch starting to grow and head down towards the creek. We started, that was the first time we've ever taken an attempt at that, so that'll be a multi-year effort over there. And we're gonna do some dormant seeding of some shade fescues and things like that as this knotweed dies out during the off season. We'll go in there late January, you know, when the ground heaves up and makes gaps for seeds, and we'll do some dormant seeding and hopefully start to establish something other than knotweed in there, which is what we did at Iroquois. I took care of Iroquois this year, and there were maybe a handful of knotweed plants that were not even, you know, staged out with multiple stems. So that approach over at Iroquois did very well. So
How many years have you been on that?
on Iroquois, I think we've been there for 4 years.
Been in it.
The first year was just a wipe down of, it was out about, I don't know, probably 10 yards off the bank worth of solid knotweed, 6-7 feet. And now we're clear all the way to the stream bank. We pruned some of the trees up down there, and it's a nice place to go aside from the play area. So we'll do that over Williamsburg. That was new. Twin Hills, the retreatment is on its 3rd or 4th year from what was ground. It's getting harder and harder each year to identify and get in there with some of the taller stuff, but they still spent upwards of 4.5, 5 hours there. 3 guys with backpack sprayers, so any regrowth of honeysuckle is what they were focused on. Tree of Heaven, we did a lot along, Ron Block tagged a bunch for me through Bird, sent me some maps, that was super helpful. Also took a big chunk off if you're going down Beadling, where the lawn area sort of cuts in and there's more lawn. There's a big stand through there. We took a good stab at that this year, so you really won't know until the spring when stuff leaves out if you got to it.
Is it the fluorescent tape?
Yeah, he had some fluorescent tape down through the main trail that goes to the soccer field and along there, so.
And what technique for the trees?
It all depended on caliper, so this year was the first time I've done basal treatment. So we did that on anything up to 2-3 inch. If not, I would re-tag it, come back with different equipment to do the hack and squirt, which has been pretty successful. We stayed also working in the public works culvert in front of there, because that's an easy transfer of seeds and everything like that. We're on our 2nd year there. Knotweed has been pushed back with additional seeding. This will be the 2nd year we do that. And the first swath they took out, there's not much there at all. So they took a little bit more out this time, but that kind of gets us up to that bank at Cedar there. So we're tackling both sides of that swale that was installed to ensure that we're not just letting it go and get, you know, garbage seeds and stuff start to wash down through. So that was kind of a joint effort over on that one. Then other ones, Main Park, took a stab at the back corner of the 40. Kelly had pointed that out. So we got back there a little bit, got the perimeter of the pool fence, which is all poison ivy. They wiped it out pretty good the year before, but that stuff's hard. So it was still at the appropriate time to treat it. So they took another stab at that. We really like to do that when the pool's empty and done anyway, and it's also when you should be treating it. So it all works out. So we did take a stab through Main Park. There's a slope above the hill that had some knotweed started. Stayed focused on that to keep that low. I think we had pretty good success over there too. So a little bit of dormant seeding this winter is going to be helpful, and I think a strategic way to keep going at this. So it seems to work pretty well.
So, 2 comments. First, it sounds like 1, you're making progress. 2, you're getting the technique dialed in.
Sure.
And learning has happened here. Like, this is good, effective use of resources. Tom and I were at Main Park and we saw the makeshift beware of the poison ivy sign. That's fun.
Yeah.
The upper area of Main Park is really good.
Yeah,
There
they're,
were a gentleman who came in the August or September meeting and complained that it was kind of overgrown and it looked like pretty clear and.
yeah.
You talking about by the
Nice,
school parking lot or what's
I think it's
Down by Park Bridge.
Oh, that,
Beadland, the back of Beadland, that area.
Couple reminders to the mowing crew up there goes a long way, you know, so that we have those phone numbers in our, you know, those are casual conversations that fix things pretty quick, so. That's it on the invasive end, but that was at a maintained service level, and I think we did more than we did in previous years at the same dollar amount.
so that's what I was wondering, yeah, it's the same budget,
It's
You
the
didn't
state
go over
budget the
budget.
last 3-4 years, I believe.
so it's the same budget, so we're getting more bang for the buck because of just how you're managing it.
Yeah, I think so. I may not need to go to Iroquois at all next year, and then, you know, maybe 2 years from now, the bank over Earlswood is in pretty good shape, so.
Because when I get to a commission update, that's one of the questions I had is invasive management, I'll wait, but that's.
Sure. And, Tim Nuttall got all these maps as well, because he's seen the other end of it. I've given him all my maps from previous years of treatments. Each year I map these out and let everyone know where we were and what we got done. So that's helpful for him to see where we're at and what we're able to go after, so. And it's really a 2 or 3 week window, so the management of it is make sure you have time during those 2-3 weeks, because in the spring, you know, everything's coming up through the plant. It's really not even effective you're almost wasting everything you're doing at that point. So that window is what I've learned is huge. So, the timing and the, everything else, but yeah, so invasives for this year is done, and I think we got a good chunk, and, what we have done is holding, so.
Thanks,
Thanks.
Great work.
Very good.
good work. A lot like always, so impressive.
Danya, Peter, Ellie, any questions or comments for Phil or Rudy on maintenance updates?
No, not on this end.
Okay.
No, other than thank you. Phil.
Yeah.
Not on my side either.
Um,
Great job.
No problem. Commission update.
All right, I wanted to talk about budget because it's like the big deal. So this is budget season, it's budget month. How many people, let me back up for a sec. The manager provides a recommended budget, and that by charter, by home rule charter, by law, has to be balanced. That was provided to the public and the commission at the same time. That was on November 1st. So we've been going through it, commission's been going through it. Maybe you all have gone through it too, it's online. Probably not, but take a look, and I want to hit right now the parks related pieces and some recreation related pieces too, if you're interested. And make sure, or just get feedback on from the board. Is that cool? So what's gonna happen with this information that I get today, the commission's going to meet with the manager and staff and review the manager's recommended budget line by line. We do 4 public budget sessions. You're welcome to attend. They're right in this room. The date's really quick, Thursday, November 9th, this Thursday, 6 to 9. And that's an important one because that's the public works is gonna be hit at approximately 8 p.m. Sometimes we get off schedule, but the goal is about 8 p.m. And public works is the section that talks about parks maintenance. The next budget workshop is Saturday, November 18th. That's from 9 to noon. That one's gonna have recreation in it, so it might also be interesting. And then the third one is November 30th. That again is from 6 to 9, and the very end of that one at 8 o'clock is when we'll talk about capital expenses. Those are the big ticket items, so that's what's probably most interesting for you all. And then the last one is Tuesday, December 5th, 6 to 8. We'll pick up anything that got bumped that we didn't have time for, and we will review all of the proposed amendments that the commission made and try to come up with our own finalized balanced budget. So that's where all the kind of compromising and duking it out happens is usually that last session, so you might want to tune in then as well to see what the ultimate budget is. So I'll jump right in, unless there's any questions on just like process, timeline, those dates and stuff, I'll jump right into parks related stuff. Is that cool?
Or just,
Um,
because
Yeah,
I'll be out of town this Thursday.
you can watch it, you can
Yeah.
record, it's recorded.
But if I'm unable to do any of those things. Our comments still solicited, on.
Not at these
Public
meetings,
Works.
Tom.
So absolutely comments are at the commission meetings. No comments are during the budget discussion. They're just
Okay.
really packed meetings, but the two commission meetings that we have every month on Tuesdays. This next Tuesday coming up on the 14th at 8 PM. You can call in, you Zoom in, or show up right next door. And usually comments are done by 8:30, so it's not a huge time suck. You can stay for the whole meeting. But if you just want to pop in, we love it, really do. I mean, I'm not just saying that, it's nice to hear. And then the next one after that's the 28th, so 14th or the 28th, and then and that'd be the end. Those are the two. We hope to have the budget finalized on that the 5th, I think, and that would mean before the commission meeting after that. Cool, process, meeting, stuff. All right, I think I'll do capital improvement first, and then I'll go into the parks, maintenance stuff, through public works, because capital is the big ones. So, we have this capital improvement program. It covers 5 years. It was published in August and reviewed in September in the public, in a public discussion session. So maybe you heard a little bit about some of this already, but I'm gonna assume everybody doesn't, because I don't follow it as much. Parks, and I'll throw in rec related stuff that's in there. Park view, let's see, no, this one's not in there, let's see, jumping down, leaf and debris grinder, purchase of a new leaf and debris grinder used for processing leaves collected in the fall and other yard waste. And number 12 is tennis court reconstruction phase 2. That's courts 5 and 6. 5 and 6 were approved in last year's budget, in case that sounds familiar. And when we went to bid it, it was almost $100,000 over what we had budgeted. So we didn't do it. We're hoping to rebid it. Maybe the prices will come down a little bit, but if they haven't, now the managers recommended to fund that additional funds. We always cost share this with indoor tennis. They're a nonprofit and they're going to contribute 45% of that total cost. So tennis court 4 and 5.
25% of the whole cost or new cost?
Both. So the new cost. We circled back to them first before. That total cost is now estimated to be, well, it's $135,000 more. That's a tricky piece. It was like 400. I don't remember exactly total,
That sounds right.
but the new cost. And we had estimated it to be about 3 last year. Also tennis related, the elevator has reached the end of its useful life and needing a lot of repairs, and so it's recommended that we replace that elevator. That's almost $70,000, $69,000.
Where is the elevator?
I know, right? Literally everyone said that. There is a tennis center building that you have seen with a pro shop inside, and then up top, there's a large, really nice, able to be rented room, and it's called the Founder's Room. Rented, please use it. It's nice.
That can be rented by anybody in the community. It doesn't have to be tennis specific. Wow.
Totally.
Okay, good to know.
Website, right? Is it?
Yeah.
People just don't know what
Birthday
Founders is.
parties and-
Yeah. It's great, and if you do rent it for birthday parties and there's little carts that you can kind of pull your stuff in to get it in, because that's the only downside is there's no close parking to unload.
So why is it not on the rental list as well? That room's not listed
Are
on
you
the
on the
website.
website right now?
No, I'm not, but we've rented before the meeting rooms. So it's never shown up like that there was another option at all.
I can pull it up and look and see what it is and how to do it. Thank you. I'll keep going then.
Carry on.
Cool. I'll keep going and then we'll look into that one. Thanks. That is all as far as capital improvements goes. A big letdown for me and you is that the North Meadowcroft Park Phase 3, that's phase 3 of the 3-year project, basketball court, paved, lighting, update, entire site and amenities will be landscaped, did not make the cut of the manager's recommended budget. Initially, it was slated to, and I know I looked it up, did my homework, come on in. It was, your number one, yeah, I'll pause, you want to read everybody? I don't know if you want to, I'll pause for a second. You guys good? Okay, I'm talking about budget stuff. We're in the process of reviewing and creating what's gonna get funded next year. That doesn't happen in this meeting, in the Parks Board meeting, that happens in 4 separate budget workshops, but I'm just giving the Parks Board an update on that process. So Jimmy, I saw that it's number 2 on your recommended capital project prioritization lists from the Park Advisory Board. That checks out. I pulled that up. And I believe it was recommended at one point by the manager. I saw it in the capital improvement program when I looked at it and approved it in September, but it's a really tight budget year. And I think that's one of the things that the manager recommended that we cut. And I'll just throw that up for comments. I'm sure you're not happy about it.
Yeah, that's surprising. Pickleball courts look great. Better than that, so let's get
Yeah.
the most out of them.
Yeah.
The founder's room is on the website.
You want to eat?
Rent
You
it.
want to Eat now?
Yeah.
Okay. You want to put the plates out and-
Do any of the projects that don't make the cut,
Things could get moved
that's-
around. Yeah.
Yeah, no, can those, are those reconsidered or automatically quote unquote put on, you know, are they still in the 5-year capital budget?
100%,
And the
100%. So
Push back.
I'm recommending that, yeah, that you guys keep it on your radar and let's push for it in 2025. There's a lot of other competing capital projects that are already on that for 2025, but because this got bumped, I think you have a great case. Everybody wants it. It was really high ranked with the Sports Advisory Board too. So that helps. That means a huge, the merge board and the separate boards both think it's a big priority. What the manager did recommend funding was $1.3 million almost for the fire training facility. That's construction of a training building consisting of 5 40-foot steel storage containers, 60 by 60 concrete pad connecting water supply to the site. Project also includes construction of identical storage garage on the site to allow Public Works to store their leaf trailers and other equipment because they're giving up space of the Public Works yard for this facility. That came to us I think it's been in the works for 10 years, but really over the last 2 years, the volunteer firefighters especially have been fundraising and going after grants. And there's a lot of momentum for that project right now and access to grant money. I think a couple $100,000 of donations and grant money. So that might have been why the manager is recommending that we go ahead and do the $1.3 million fire training facility, and that probably bumped up, a lot of other things.
Before, maybe it's premature, but I feel like when we talk about parks, our parks and rec combined, doesn't the ice rink situation kind of blow all this up for us?
100%. That next year, the ice rink there's probably gonna be a huge capital request as well. Now, I know this sounds terrible, because in addition to that, there's also the turf. The turf was supposed to be replaced 2 years ago, but we were able to get a couple more years out of it. But now people are saying it's probably time. It's probably time, either 2020. So it's not gonna be funded now to be done in 2024, but the end of 2024 probably needs to be done in 2025. That's expensive. But I'm not super concerned because 2025 is a really great year. We have some debt service that's falling off, which will allow us to go out for additional loans. And that could tick off a lot of these projects in one big go. So that's the plan right now is to go out, and to get loans, but so.
I haven't had time to look at the capital or the overall revenue and expenditure front end of the budget. And we don't want to get in this meeting into the weeds with that, but in general, are revenues down or is the 3.8 million for sanitary sewers, which are coming through the rate structure anyhow, or is what's,
Revenues are up, things are great. We have really robust, very, very healthy economy, but expenses are really high right now across the board. Labor expenses are high, but it's mostly construction. Things are coming in 30%, 130% of what we estimated.
The garbage contract alone, went up.
Garbage.
yeah,
Yeah, the garbage, so
Garbage collection, trash collection.
that's
recycling.
where we're getting hit, yeah, we have a nice, stable revenue stream in every area. With our village tax, with our earned income
Right.
tax,
I get that, I've got
but. the
clients who have
expenses-
experiencing the same angst with more zeros on their budget, but the same problem,
Equipment.
so.
Trucks, I mean, trucks that we were spending $85,000-$90,000, 3-4 years ago are now $135,000.
And they take, 12 months longer to get.
Right,
So we gotta get in line. That's what we're experiencing, but it's not a bad budget with the recommended budget. It's not bad. We have some other, there's some other good things in there. And some things we have some flexibility, like our street reconstruction program. We always spend 2.2 million on street reconstruction. We'll probably spend 2.2 million again, and it just won't go as far. We just won't get as many streets, full depth asphalt, reconstructed, and that'll be okay, stuff like that.
And one more process question.
Yeah.
So the 24 items on this list, that was based on the,
I'm not sure which list is that.
I'm sorry,
That's not
that's just.
the capital? Yeah, okay, good. Yeah, that's what I was going through, exactly. So this line right here where it says 15, see how
Yeah,
there's that line?
yeah,
That is what got funded from the manager's recommendation.
no, I understand.
Okay, cool.
So my question was, what's the origin, I may have known this once, like, where the 24 items come from? Was that from the capital budget or?
Yes,
Okay, that's what I thought.
so I'll run through public works park maintenance stuff, maybe better news there. Looked at it, it's decent news. So I'm in the park maintenance side, in case you happen to be following along online or whatever, page 50. Park maintenance, last year, we funded service level all the way up to service level 7, which includes mowing and refuse control, repairs and general maintenance, ball field bleacher safety upgrades, preventative fence maintenance program, that's for $16,000 a year. Additional deer management, that's $40,000, and then number 6, invasive species control, that was $10,000. That's what we've been funding it for the past couple of years. And it's scalable. I wanted to ask, with the study being complete, do we see a need for more funding in that? Like, would we know what to do with it if there was,
well, the study's not complete yet.
Oh, yeah.
He's still working on that. We should have that by the end of the year.
So it's hard to say.
At this point, I mean, I think we've seen improvements, so. I
Yeah,
think we wait for recommendations from the consultant to see what he's gonna recommend. And it may be funding for planting replacement trees and
Mhm.
shrubbery and underbush that will fill those voids that we're creating by taking some of those materials out. So it may be a combination of things.
That was the number one thing the Parks Board had was implementation of the invasive plan.
Right.
So is 10,000 gonna cut it for,
As you said before, we're seeing positive progress. So,
Yeah.
I mean, we're getting more done with the same amount of dollars.
Right.
We're expanding our areas that we're cleaning up.
Yeah, I mean, to Rudy's point, the report is to give us
plan.
an action plan and
Right.
priority, whether it's more treatment or
Planting.
planting, because you have to have something to fill the void. So I don't know.
Part of that RFP was to provide cost estimates too, for like a 5-year plan to project expenses for implementation of the plan.
So let's say, management and restoration generically, yes,
Uh-huh.
whether that means
Invasive specifically,
treatment versus
yeah.
driving it out with good things.
I mean, right now, if you were to ask us, and I'll defer to Phil, because he's been doing a lot of this, handling the contractual end of this, but if you were to say, do you need any more money currently, I think we're covering everything that we need to cover at this
You
point.
wouldn't, yeah,
I
you don't have a
don't know
big
that we
need
need
for
to
it right now.
expand it at all. I mean,
really goes with what I've gone to a couple seminars recently with to maintain credits for our pesticide license, and people from Penn State teach, you get guest speakers everywhere, and it's really, the way they look at it is it makes a lot of sense. It's what, these plants are gonna be around forever. You know, you really are not gonna eradicate
Yeah,
this completely. So it's more of looking at what manageable chunks can we take out and make sure they stay that way, or provide a function of that space after it's taken out. So it's more what you do after it, I think, is what I'm hearing and learning. So as long as, you really don't wanna bite that much off and go wipe out 10 grand worth of knotweed and then be out of money and go, oh man, now there's something else.
Yeah,
growing.
something else that you hate
So
growing
we've just
there.
planted a privet forest.
Right, so,
Yeah,
A good example is if you have a really thick lawn, you don't have to treat for crabgrass or dandelions, because it can't get sunlight in order to find
Yeah.
a place to grow, so
yeah,
a healthy lawn is the best weed control you can have
yeah,
without using herbicides.
Generically, yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
What it looks like,
we don't know.
I'm not sure yet.
Okay,
Yeah, there needs, moving forward, just to echo what Rob was saying, there needs to be in the capital budget, or, above the line, either the capital or the ongoing operational line, there needs to be soon a line for implementation of the forestry and
Yeah.
invasive management plan, be it invasive control or replanting or whatever. We need to be able to do something with that plan once it exists. One quick question for Phil, and I don't want to since drag this out, on the 10,000 for the invasives control, I imagine the chemicals used, like all chemicals, or costs are going crazy or not, and I'm impressed if you can do. You guys must be getting really efficient if that is a true statement and you're hanging on with 10 grand. I know in the water and wastewater field, there's obviously different chemicals, but
sure.
they've been going up like that, and
I'd say within the last year, I've only purchased one thing just because we tried a basil bark application on some of the kind of stands of thin shoot stuff that was taking a little longer to treat. But outside of that, we're still using our stock of
okay.
what we have, so
is anybody online?
they are going up.
Let's-
For sure.
Okay. Okay, then I'll just kind of put a little like question mark, implementation of plan, question mark. The next one that is recommended to be funded for $24,000, almost 25, Church Place Park Fall Zone replacement. That includes removal of the existing engineered wood fiber fall zone and installation of synthetic playground grass. The new fall rated surface will eliminate the maintenance associated with the wood fiber system throughout the year. This playground structure is one of the hardest to access, often involves restoring the park lawn after normal maintenance. The new fall zone surface will also add an additional ground play element to the structure for improved inclusive activities. Again, that one's $25,000 approximately and is recommended to be funded. So,
Can I just throw one comment?
yeah,
Sure, when you look at it, whatever you can do to make it as easy to maintain as possible, maybe if it's an extra 8 inches that way before the wall.
Yeah, that one is the same person that did the
Green
main
Park,
part.
nice.
Nice.
Yeah, so we went up and looked at that one. It's an easy part to wrap up and knock off some master plan things real quick. So we'll see what we can get out of there.
Cool. The next one that this is the last one under parks maintenance that's recommended by the manager. Parks identification signage for $10,000. Funding provides implementation of the phase signage installation across the park and open space areas throughout the municipality. It's ranked high from Parks and Sports Board as well. We all know that the design standard's been, you've been involved in the process. So I don't know if 10,000 is enough. I don't know if we know until we start to go out for specs. I know that the sports groups have offered, or there's some sports groups that have offered to pitch in money as well for field, I'm sure field specific type signs. So there might be some fundraising opportunities as well. But I'm gonna ask just for maybe a little bit more on that in case, because I'd like to get as many signs done as possible next year. thoughts? Cool, okay, stuff that didn't make the cut. Park and field maintenance equipment, that's purchase of a 4500 series Ventrac articulating tractor for $60,000. Also concession stand rolled up service window that was estimated at $18,000. That's the roll up window at the concession and it's broken and they just kind of keep trying to make it work anyway.
Two,
What?
That's two windows.
Oh, two windows.
Two large, very large units.
Very large, heavy,
That's
what I
like,
heard.
the cost is a little weird, but if you think about two of them, that's.
Two huge like garage door almost kind of things. Yeah. Cool, and then next is planting areas. Those are recommended to be funded at the current levels. That's Washington Road and then some high visibility planting throughout the municipality. Forestry is also recommended to be funded at the current level. That's tree removal, basic tree trimming, replacement planting, increased forestry service for $45,000. It's increased a couple years ago and then we're just maintaining it. And then emerald ash borer treatment for $5,000. I know we talked about that a little bit in this group before. That's recommended to be done again. Any comments on forestry?
Tree guards. Show some pictures later.
Regards.
Tree guards, strong ones.
Do we have costing or would we know what to do with them or the cost for them?
We buy them and we're implementing them into
Oh.
street tree planting.
Do you have some?
Yeah, we've done some throughout Rockwood,
Oh, okay.
Williamsburg, a couple of them got ripped off in Williamsburg. Pretty aggressive sucker out there, so hopefully he moves on to a new pasture.
Yeah.
somewhere.
Things that didn't make the cut in forestry are a street tree program evaluation estimated at $90,000. That'd be a study. Study of all street tree operations to determine the life cycle costs of all phases associated with the programs, and that would ideally create some efficiencies in selection, planning, removal, pruning. Also not funded is $150,000 position of forestry supervisor. That'd be a professional forester who's hired to manage all aspects of the municipal street tree and park forestry programs. Also not recommended to be funded is additional forestry crew for $680,000. That's additional staff to handle more requests and knock stuff out quicker. Questions on that?
Just wondering about the street tree program evaluation. I don't remember if I ever knew what the scope was or RFP wasn't developed because it didn't get funded. But I'm wondering whether it's something that there are internal resources within the municipality, not public works. You guys got a full plate, but expertise on the advisory board or others out there that could take a whack at.
Yeah, volunteers to take a
Something-
staff,
something
maybe,
like
I'm
this.
not in the municipality, not paid
Yeah.
staff, but maybe volunteers could
Yeah,
get it started.
yeah, a lot of,
That's an
yeah,
idea.
I like the conservancy and others, not as a conservancy project, but there are a lot
Maybe
of
student
landscape
groups even,
architects
yeah.
and, grad student groups and their engineers and folks who know how to do this kind of stuff, I think.
I like that idea if the Parks Board wants to take it on as a, kind of managing that volunteer effort next year.
We have on the agenda for December is what is next year look like.
All right.
So,
Should pencil that one in. Cool. There's a lot of interest on the commission to know what that is. Yeah.
Does Danya have a question?
She's had her hand up for a while. I have a question though. Danya, do you have a question?
No, I don't.
Okay. So my question, kind of jumping back, with it's really regarding the kind of getting the big picture on the fire safety training facility. I guess, I don't see that in other communities. It's such a big chunk of the budget that then rules out so many other things like North Meadowcroft and forestry and so forth. I just wonder what the rationale, even though it's been planned for 10 years, is that something that is really needed in our community? Do other communities have it? Yeah, and just it seems like perhaps a little bit in excess.
Yeah, there are only a couple training facilities in the region. Most municipalities don't have their own training facility, and the thought is that we could share this facility with some other municipalities, but our firefighters need to go pretty far, usually to the North Hills, to get the mandatory training that they need on an annual basis done. I forget how many hours that they need here, but it's a lot. And so now they're driving up, and that's time that they're not able to volunteer here. You know, the commute time is lost. And it's really limited on the hours because they're in such demand. The training facilities are in such demand in the area, in the region. So that's why they've been asking for a decade for a training facility. It doesn't have to be in Mount Lebanon exactly, but just really close to Mount Lebanon, so they don't lose so much commute time and they have more access to improve in general and have more training
Right.
areas.
Forgive me
Is
if I
there-
missed that, but where will it be located?
In the public works yard,
And that,
kind of near where the ice storage, I mean, the salt storage is, right?
Below that, yeah,
Yeah.
down kind of,
So, has there been canvassing of other fire departments or any kind of sense of whether they will actually do their training there and share some of the cost in the future?
We're not asking them to share the cost, but when we went out for grant funding, that was part of the understanding, is that we'll have some renting, we'll rent it to other departments, other volunteer departments
seems
to be
like
able
a,
to use it.
Has there been a good estimation of how much income you'll get from renting?
No,
Kind of a vague
No.
feeling. I think it's for something of this magnitude, it would seem there should be some solid metrics about who's going to be using it, how often, and what income it might provide going forward.
definitely, we're not seeing it all as an income stream. The fire departments in the region are really struggling. They're mostly volunteer basis. Even Upper St. Clair only recently just hired their only one employee, and it's the chief. And so because the fire departments are relying almost strictly on volunteers across Pennsylvania, they've been hurting to find people. And so the coverage is really lacking and deteriorating every year. And that puts a strain on our municipality and from a selfish perspective, because we often all go to the same fire. The borders don't really matter. We'll all show up, and there just isn't as many volunteers to help. They're firefighters in the region area. So this is sort of also like to help contribute. If there's better training that's closer, the thought is that it'll be a retention tool for our firefighters and maybe nearby municipalities firefighters as well, to keep volunteers in this position, as opposed to us, the Mount Lebanon, having to hire more firefighters, which is very expensive. It's great that so many people want to be volunteer firefighters in Mount Lebanon right now. And this will, I hope, continue to ensure that there's that retention for the next several decades.
I certainly see a need and benefit of it. I don't know what the details are, because it's been years since I was even remotely involved in like Shaycog or others, but it seems like let's build it here and participate and contribute a goodly chunk of the capital expense, but it sure would be grand if some of the other municipalities in the South Hills could pony up and have it as a regional asset. I assume folks have looked into that.
Yeah, the site doesn't, the public works site doesn't lend itself well to being very regional, but other people can use it, but it is a very, very busy area. And our firefighters will be using it a lot as well. So I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I have zero expertise on this stuff, other than it seems like kind of it'd be great if we could go in with some of the neighboring towns.
Yeah. I was just gonna pull up the, it looks like there's $200,000 of grants, $100,000 of existing donations. Right now already, out of that I said 1 point, almost 3
That's what
million.
it takes to handle it.
Yeah, 965 is what the municipality is looking at, just. Still a huge amount of money, should I move on to, okay, the last thing, as I thought it would make sense to go through some rec related items. So I'll run through those really fast. Recreation management, same service level that we have it right now. Seasonal programs, same service level. Golf course, same service level that it is right now, no changes there. But it's not recommended to be funded, but the recreation director has been asking for more maintenance people across the board, including at the golf course. That would be $42,000, but it's below the line. So tennis center, same service level that we have now, but there will be some conversations in the budget about hiring some additional positions in the tennis area for maintenance and management, kind of tennis operations, because indoor tennis, who currently operates 6 to 7 months of the year, is interested in partnering with the municipality in a very different way moving forward, and in such that the municipality does a lot more of the management, the scheduling, the oversight on the maintenance. And so those additional, we're gonna have those discussions in budget time, but those additional positions are seen as revenue generating because indoor tennis does make revenue every year. So
It looks like, now I'm looking at the whole thing, maybe I'll pull this up. It looks like the golf course is going down by about 12%.
golf courses is probably losing a little bit of money there. It's pretty seasonal, year to year.
Right.
They were down, a little bit because we did some renovations this year, improved some, golf course paths and things too. Might have been why.
For no comment, one way or the other, I just noticed that we have a bit of a hit.
Platform's the same, ice rink is recommended at the same service level, but as we all know, though, there might be some, I don't think we'll be ready next year. I mean, we're not gonna be ready in this budget discussion to fund anything additional for the rink. We funded the repairs already, and that was about $120,000. That's it, we took that out of some emergency money. And, but for the next year, I would expect to see some additional large capital expenses in the rink. And then swim center, a small change there. There's a request that is granted by the, manager recommended it for $43,000 for seasonal, manager positions at the pool. Right now with the labor market, it's really hard to find pool managers, what we're currently paying. So this is an additional funds for that, to have experienced pool managers on site. And that is it for rec. Well, actually, that's not, we got some cameras, sorry. Cameras at the rec center / ice rink for $10,000. That's new.
Security type.
Security, yeah, there's been a little bit of vandalism mostly.
Any other questions or comments on commission update?
Or suggestions about other stuff in general that I didn't cover.
Thank
Sure, I'm sorry, it took a long time. It's a
No,
once a year shot though. Yeah, be quiet.
Next up, project recap. This is our seasonal item, looking back at projects completed. And I will share my screen.
Cool.
So we had a major tree removal and replacement at Rockwood in Williamsburg. I was at Rockwood just the other day and took a few notes, but Kelly, Danya, I think if you would like to make any comments about Rockwood, I have a few pictures that we can look at while we do that.
I visited Rockwood and it looks like everything's in order. And there's nothing I'd like to add to that.
Yes. I just took a couple photos, spots where we might have tree roots that decay and then need to
It's usually, I'd say a 2-year cycle to get any stump grinding to take a good stand of turf.
Okay.
That material you stump grind steals the same nutrients that grass needs to grow. It's usually a crapshoot the first year, and then even with additional soils, what we found out. So Williamsburg looks similar throughout. We aerated, overseeded for a second time. This fall, we did it in the spring. We pushed about 600 pounds of grass through Williamsburg this past fall, so there should be improvement there. But that's what I've seen.
Okay. In general, I think the park looks great. The trees look great. I saw no sign of any deer damage. Question is, will we repeat watering bags for them next summer?
Yeah, we still have them, yeah.
Minus 2 bags. One was completely shredded, like Swiss cheese from Antlers.
Bag.
Yeah,
That up in the tree, sweat like done.
Williamsburg, Kelly, I've got a few notes here, but I know you were very close to this. Comments on the Williamsburg project?
Yeah, we did, well, Phil's crew did 2 plantings. One was in December, I believe, or end of November, where they planted, I think, well, let me back up. We planted 21 trees in total there, 16 shade trees, 5 flowering trees, and that was done over 2 plantings. One was in end of November, beginning of December. The second was in May. You can see in the center, we did keep a very wide opening for sledding. And we followed up with the community members who had expressed concern about the devastation and their thoughts to the park. But they were very happy once we followed up with them and let them know that the plan, and we heard them, and that the trees that we've selected and that we've planted are expected to grow over, well, variety of them. We'll have a variety of canopy levels, and these trees will last hopefully upwards of 200 years, some of them. So it should be a really stately, beautiful site. Phil and I were out there a couple of weeks ago when I was doing the surveying for the signage project with him, and everything looked great. I didn't walk around and check every single tree, but from the bottom of the hillside, he and I both agreed that it looked like everything was fully leafed out, and everything is, I think it turned out to be a really great project. So in 5 to 10 years, it's going to look fantastic.
Nice.
Yeah, super variety of trees. Yeah,
Yeah, I can go through the list if you'd like. We have 2 Princeton elms, 2 white oaks, 2 shagbark hickories. I think we have 5 maples or 6 maples, 1 serviceberry, 1 locust, 2 lindens, 1 weeping cherry. That may be it. I may be missing one. There were a few. There's some damage there on some of the trees, but Phil, you may remember if there were a few others that were brought in. And there were a few that we had planned to place on site, but once we got the trees laid out in the fall, we just didn't have the space for them. So we took a few over, Phil and his crew took a few over to Iroquois, and there were a few other places in the parks that they were needed. But it's a great variety and a lot of really large canopy, stately trees.
Do they need to be watered?
not now.
they got watering bags.
We watered them, we irrigated them in the summer.
Two separate times when there was some drought that was
Nice.
forecast, we did ride through and fill them up.
That's awesome, thanks.
So the deer damage, I mean, these are guarded trees. The deer, I saw it at Twin Hills. I emailed Tim Nuggle about this. You guys found that email. They're I mean, they're not just rubbing, like they will crack a 2-inch tree right off at the
Wow.
base.
That little one had the shredded irrigation bag on it. That one in the lower left.
So that's what we're dealing with as far as the deer goes. These are protected trees that are still getting shredded
Still
through the
getting-
guards, or the guards are getting ripped off.
Crazy, but the deer aren't eating them.
Now that they're putting
Yeah.
their scent on it
Correct.
and they're rubbing their
Antler.
antlers and
I changed 4 out that were heavily repeated, visits with corrugated black pipe. We had a couple sticks laying around. So we did change a couple out that were kind of the repeat offender trees, so to speak. But yeah, we put them on, I put them back on a couple times. We would get a call.
so maybe some pruning of these broken limbs at some point. You know, as strong with guard as we can get, if not metal fencing. I know it's the cost, it's a cost thing, these. So, but from a planning and execution standpoint, the grass came in, I think the grass came in nicely.
Yeah, there's nice usable lawn there again.
Nice.
One thing we may want to do too is check the Arboretum project to see if there's anything in here that we have that we don't already have listed. We can add that into the Arboretum so that we, you know, expand the map and expand the list that we have.
Yeah, it's such a nice variety.
Yeah, we were gonna try and go to the next level if we could. I think that Lane started several years ago.
Kelly, would you follow up on that, please?
Sure.
Any of these species that aren't already listed?
Yeah, I'll take a look at that.
Guess our map isn't accurate anymore over there.
No,
The whole kit and
Right.
caboodle.
right.
And then before we move on, just one additional comment, just in terms of planning and execution. One of the lessons learned, I think, from this process is that for a project that is this extensive, if we are going to have, you know, kind of almost desolation of an area that will impact the neighboring community, to make sure that we are we're preempting the process a little bit more. I know we did put up signage. I can't remember exactly what the issue was, whether it was only placed in the park and it wasn't seen by enough people, or maybe we didn't do it early enough, or maybe we didn't solicit feedback early enough. I don't know if anybody remembers where we went wrong, but I think what the take home message is for us in the future, the project of this scale, to make sure we're reaching out months in advance and taking a couple of different, looking at a couple of different avenues to make sure that we're reaching the community members, maybe flyering houses, so that we don't upset anybody.
We did send a mailer to all neighboring properties that touched that, over a month in advance. It was the same flyer that was posted in the park at the main entrance of the
Web, or the web,
And the-
website,
and
we
the
had
website.
information on there. Now we have before and after pictures, so we can share those the next time too. So,
Okay, so we did, so it sounds like the steps were taken, maybe, in the letter that was delivered to the houses, did we invite them to come and talk with us at a monthly meeting at the Parks Advisory Board meeting, or was it more of just a notice? Was there any contact information in there?
I could find it and we could look through it again.
Bill's,
It was mainly informational, I think,
Mm.
to be honest.
Yeah,
Here's what's
Yeah.
going on.
yeah, but that would be good. Add up information about who to contact about it.
Yeah, I think they just wanted to have their voices heard, and it wasn't until we acknowledged that we heard them that they felt like they could relax and, take a breath, because they were nervous, they were worried, and rightfully so. So it was a big change.
Thank you for doing all the outreach and.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
It's hard. I mean, I agree with everything you said, and it still is gonna hurt. I think there's just, it is upsetting, to take down those trees upsets everybody.
Well, it reminds me of the idea that when we have a whole lot of trees that are the same age, we're gonna put ourselves in the position to have this problem. So having a range of,
we got a lot of compliments on this too. I mean, even when we took them down, because there was the cherry and the locust we had there. We were constant, if there was a 5-mile-an-hour breeze, we were over there cleaning up for a week afterwards, and that's not an exaggeration, because the they were all weak trees, that they were, I'm pretty sure they were volunteer trees. It appeared that way anyway, that was probably a wooded area that just, hey, let's mow it and we'll leave some trees in here. And there was nothing but tops in those trees because they were too close together to start with. So we got a lot of compliments from people that use the park with their kids and saw a lot of the damage after windstorms.
Thanks. Pine cone. 13 trees, 5 species.
Nice.
We lost a couple of the Virginia pines from the initial planting, and last winter with that cold, windy, dry December, the cedars of Lebanon in particular had something called winter burn. So talk about watering, probably we've had a pretty good fall for water, but it's something to be on the lookout for those trees in particular.
Are they dead or are they gonna come back?
No, they came back fine, but they
Oh,
were
good.
brown.
Yeah,
And it's a combination of the soil being dry, being cold, and having high winds.
yeah.
And it
Cedars do brown. I don't know why, but yeah, you said cold, high winds
dry.
and dry.
So mulch, maybe you wrap the trees, the fencing around the trees to create a windbreak. So it was good, but so there's a couple of the tree planting pictures, our scout and his whole family plus friend. Trees are looking great. Virginia pine on the left, cedar on the right, the aspen in the middle, and deciduous larch in the lower right, all looking good. But now, the meadow, we have Maren and Marianne here, who pioneered the vision and implementation of this, so. What, you wanna share some thoughts on the project and?
Sure. Well, first of all, we're really grateful for supporting the program and funding this, project because, it's something that the community really enjoys. We've seen Maren has a list of all of the comments on Facebook. I think it's phenomenal that that Mount Lebanon just is really adopting all these sustainable landscape practices. That's really important. And that we've really kind of brought the public along with this, because in the beginning, there were comments like, oh, I'm not sure if I see the vision. That first year, it was just basically a sea of black-eyed Susans for Rebecca. It was beautiful. And I kept in communication with Ernst Seed Company, and they said, if you've got a lot of Rebecca, you've got good seed germination, it's going to be phenomenal the second year. And it was absolutely stunning. I think we counted a total of almost 15 to 20 different species in that meadow, which the things I heard from people is, I know my neighbors, they love that, it's just such a magnet for nature, the birds, the butterflies, the bees, the colors, and it's just such a great entrance to our community in Sunset Hills. More importantly, it's adding so much value. What I understand about meadows, and I've met with the woman who kind of spearheaded Allegheny County Parks, and that project it's like 50% reduction of erosion in those areas with meadows. So it can really be used to reduce. I know that sidewalk has always been a problem in Sunset Hills. You could see it in the summertime, even you'd see wet pavement, and that's really been dry. So, I don't know how it was in the winter. We had a very mild winter, last season, but it adds so much benefit, not just in terms of beautification, but really reducing the no-mow. So it just did, it really worked out beautifully. where that is positioned could not be more ideal. It receives from those natural underground springs enough moisture, but gets the southern exposure. I have to tell you, you look at this meadow, even compared to what is out at South Park, because of just the location of this, this is just an absolute perfect example of what a meadow should look like. And to receive that in one full calendar year was just, it really, I think, exceeded our expectations.
So did the seeds go in the fall?
June 2022.
Yeah,
2022,
Right.
So wow. really?
amazing, amazing. So
That is surprising.
it comes down to, and this is a deer resistant mix,
Yeah.
so really, from what I observed, there really wasn't, deer weren't interested, they just went right on their way. They weren't grazing on this site at all, but again, it has to do with the location and, the soil conditions, and so it just accepted it very well. And we just had phenomenal germination with this, and I think how we ended up doing that with that aerator was very successful on that.
Fund
Yeah.
the aerator.
Yeah,
It's a
that
great machine.
really, it's a great machine, because on the slope, it created those holes which these seeds then fell down into, and we didn't have the
That's my
runoff.
next question is, how do you
Yeah.
put seeds on a hill that's that steep?
Exactly. Yeah,
Wow.
and so that worked. That was very successful, and obviously, it looks amazing, and it's exactly what they said. It's about 50 to 60% grass. And then the remaining being perennial wildflowers. So all natives.
So does it get mowed in the fall now, or would we just leave it? I don't know.
It's recommended that you just leave it.
Just leave
I
it.
mean, there's a
Don't
lot
tie
of seed heads
back.
that the birds will still
Go after.
come in, and and then come springtime, we'll go in there as it gets to be about 8-9 inches, go in and cut that with a straight trimmer, that type of thing.
So in the spring, before the new growth comes up, you'll cut it.
It fully comes up, yes. And that's really it. I mean, it's very self-sustaining, virtually no maintenance. We did some weeding. We went in and pulled some dandelions. I don't even know if that was necessary, but we wanted to make sure, because all of the plants that, we want to be growing, they pretty much had taken over. So.
Thanks.
This dry picture, you can really see the amount of grass, those seed heads that are sticking up. Just a couple of things.
Might I add to the Pinecone Park too? We got a lot of comments in terms of people wanting to emulate this project in their backyards. So I would say, in terms of sustainable gardening, this was a great takeoff for the community.
Related to that, I'm first want to say it's beautiful. Thank you for all of your volunteer efforts. And I'm wondering if we want to consider this as a pilot project for other areas in Mount Lebanon, some of these areas where we are experiencing a lot of invasives and other issues. Some of the areas that Phil mentioned at the beginning of the meeting that he's treating. And I know this is to come, but thinking about what to do across the street from the tennis courts, just in areas like this that maybe are not used, not really walkable, but could be beautified and could be low maintenance, and we could replicate this in various areas. And another nice thing is, as community members or visitors drive through Mount Lebanon, they're seeing repetition of a similar sustainable theme.
Can you put that on your list of things, possible things for next year, the area across the tennis courts, turn it into a meadow?
So it's in the comp plan draft. It's actually mentioned as a Milwaukee Forest potential
Yeah.
site, which
Right.
I don't know if Maren was the genesis of that or it somehow got there some other way. But that was the original. Do you want to comment on that?
Well, I mean, I think that just my feeling about Pico Park is that it's like that people are getting used to the idea of something that looks a little messier. And that for me has been the big step that's been made here, that it does look a little messy, but people are happy with it. And it's fulfilling a function. And sort of we've learned along the way as well. I think in the beginning we were going, oh, there's so much grass or these weeds and we didn't know. And we did reseeding over and put in a little bit of work, but it feels like it's really now self-sustaining. You know, I mean, in 2022, we did like 6 volunteer days. And this year we had 5 volunteer days to do work in the meadow. And I feel like next year we'll sort of have not much work at all to do. So yeah, so I think the whole idea of a Milwaukee Forest, which is kind of what I had thought about in the beginning, was that it does become self, you know, it looks after itself. And that's kind of is what the meadow, hopefully, well, we'll still have to watch as it grows and it changes over time. But I mean, hopefully that's what this area will be. It will be beautiful and it will look after itself.
So the point is, it's at least made it into the comp plan draft, that site specifically. So maybe.
But still,
We could look at it.
Yeah, put it in.
Just, you know, the idea and then look at the site and figure out what could work there. That's both executable, maintainable. So we'll see. Just a comment on community engagement. So temporary and permanent signage, thanks to Maren's dad. A Facebook page. They mentioned the weeding events. And commission updates, all very good. And just the transition of the early feedback, skeptical, wondering, at some points critical, but then, you know, they see the results, so it's a good thing.
And just one quick comment about the wildness and the feeling of it being an acceptable aesthetic. I think one of the items that we can't forget if we are going to do something like this on other sites, one of the items I think that makes this so successful is that it is very wild, but it's couched between a paved area and a very well-maintained mowed hillside. So it's very intentional in its wildness. So if we were to do this again, you know, having just if that whole hillside was meadow, I don't know, but I would have a feeling that it would not have been as welcomed. You know, the fact that it's clearly a designed intentional planting. So in the future, doing something like this adjacent to or as part of a planting or a park that is highly maintained, I think will help lead to a more successful appreciation from the community. So just for almost even for my own thoughts too, just in the future, if we do this, maybe across from the tennis courts or somewhere else, thinking about this in that way for future design details.
Absolutely. It's the almost juxtaposition of it that makes it cool. You have a nicely mowed area and then the sidewalk.
Right.
So South Park too, it's not all meadow everywhere.
Yeah.
They continue to mow so you can walk and enjoy the meadows on either side. That's fundamental. It's also mentioned in the comp plan draft. Everyone should read it. Intentional. That's the key word, Kelly. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
That's all I had for that. Thanks, everyone. Okay. Really,
Thank you for inviting us.
Take care. Have a good evening.
park visits, we'll see how much we get through if we have to circle back to this. Bird Park. Comments, about Bird Park in particular that maybe, and we talk about Bird Park pretty often, so this is.
I found a shovel in there today. It's leaning against the tree by the lower creek.
I think that's Ron Blocks. I met him in the park last week and he was doing work. And it was the same, shovel and he started doing work after we were chatting, so.
Like stores it there, yeah,
He's there that often, he doesn't.
just leaves it.
It looked
Yeah,
like, well, it was
He
right
might-
on the path. It looked like somebody might have forgotten it, so. or-
yeah. He said he was heading out of town for work for a week too, so he may have forgotten it. Maybe I'll grab it and bring it home and I'll see if I can find it
Send
tomorrow.
him an email too.
Yeah.
If you get there before me.
Yeah, if one of us finds it, send him an email and take it home. I think, yeah, there was nothing that really stuck out other than, just the standard, things that we've talked about regularly with Bird Park. But I did notice in the last couple of days with the leaves falling, all the tree tubes and just it's incredible, all the work that has been done on the upper half. So it's great.
Oh,
All the volunteer work is really, it's gonna make that park really incredible as it starts to grow in.
yeah,
More.
well, that volunteer section looks fantastic, and also the area that Richard tackled, I was admiring today as well. And there were two things I did notice. At the stormwater remediation site at the culvert, it almost seems like the water is coming down the hillside that the Markham students use, because that corner is washed out and tree roots exposed. And then it's kind of unsightly, about 4x8 section of burlap that's just kind of dangling there. It doesn't even seem like it's attached into the soil very well. And there's nothing growing through it naturally. So I don't know if we should just remove that burlap, or it needs some attention because it's just an eyesore.
Are you talking about below the soccer field or?
Yeah, I'm talking about the Youngwood area with the culvert, the trash can right there.
I noticed a lot of the burlap as well, right below where the pipe comes out from underneath the soccer field.
Right.
And I just don't understand what is expected to happen there. I mean, it's almost a vertical wall. Nothing's gonna grow on it. So I think we should look at potentially filling those channels with what's called alluvium, which is everything that's been washed away essentially. To put back what's been washed away. Nothing will ever grow on these vertical walls of mud. It's just gonna continuously erode. I don't know. That's a different animal stream restoration. I think it's worth looking at if we're really concerned about the sedimentation.
Phil and I met out there again, Phil, now I can't remember when we last met out there, but we talked about it. And then I met Ron, as I mentioned, a couple of weeks ago to talk about what plants to replant in the areas that were not successful. And Richard and Ron and I have had some emails going back and forth. But ideally what we're what we had talked about, what Phil and I talked about was in those areas that were not successful, that were planted last year, having a rough design and getting several thousand plugs from North Creek nurseries in the spring and planting those, taking a look at different plants that were planted, looking at those that have more of a rhizomatic root spread, more shrubs. And but we should think about whether or not we're going to invest money in that approach, or if we should think about, Rob, like you're mentioning, if we're going to restore those walls of the creek bed, do we want to do more of a heavy duty restoration project with, I don't know, I can't remember what they're called, but essentially like live willow whips and overlapping. I mean, really going beyond using the burlap, but creating more of a rooted mat system for the beds, and then planting within there. I did discuss with fellow landscape architect at the county who has been designing some restoration working on restoration designs in the county parks. And she said that what she recommends is mostly woody shrubs. Of course, a couple of trees here and there is needed, but mostly shrubs and not nearly as many perennials. We could add some perennials in certain spots, but to retain or to really hold back the beds, to use really rhizomatic and fibrous root systems of shrubs. So these are things to consider, and whether or not, Phil and I had talked about this and said, well, I can come up with a plan just looking at those areas that failed, and we can fill in with different plants. But if we do want to take a different approach and hit it a little bit more intensely, then looking at different plant material and looking at shrubbery may be something to consider.
Deer resistant shrubbery.
Oh yeah, heavily, yeah, very. And there are.
Mountain laurel is deer resistant. There are different plants that are actually too successful in resisting deer in the forest that they're overtaking, even though they're native. But on those areas, this is the culvert at Youngwood.
Mm-hmm.
So the other picture I have shows the full depth, but wouldn't be appropriate to show on the screen because I was trying to hold my phone, take the picture, but it's at least 18 inches from the bottom of that pipe down to the stream bed. So the whole area could be raised. And that way you reduce the total length of those slopes. So you're addressing the outfall, but also reducing the incisement. Something to think about.
Are you talking about the culvert where the quasi access road goes over, or further upstream where the stream first emerges?
This is the access road
Oh
culvert.
yeah, the big, well, it's not that big of a culvert.
Well, and in the last couple of weeks too, some of the boulders that were holding back the hillside, just right to the right of where you're standing, just to the right on the uphill side of that culvert, one very, very large boulder has fallen down into the creek bed. And it's starting to deteriorate. It's starting to, whatever is holding back that hillside is starting to cave in.
Bill, you gotta start busting some weights.
I'll grab Ron's shovel and we'll figure it out.
I did on a positive note, I wanted to compliment the fencing by the shelter at Bird Park. Really looks nice.
Okay. Yeah, that's been a well-received standard. We continued that behind the dugouts over at Seymour, that adjoining property owners also happy with, you know, that look continued. So we got opinions from homeowners, park users, and looks like a good design that our crews can replicate and get up pretty quickly.
One of the footbridges across the stream, downstream of this, the right descending bank entrance to it is eroded away. So if it's filled with leaves, and you don't see that, you're down, 6 inches, and then you're tripping over the edge of the bridge, which this is always going to happen. So the built structures in the parks are always going to be eroding around the edges. And for that type of stream crossing, like I think we talked about a ford instead. Would it be better to not have a wooden bridge there, and instead you cross on the surface of the stream through some configuration of stones or even concrete as across the stream, instead of having a bridge that's always going to be eroding and shifting? Just an idea. I know the scouts like to build bridges, or like to build stuff. What if we set them to work on our round post fencing? Taking apart and salvaging the good and then re-erecting in certain spots. I don't know, just something instead of like, here's another bench or here's another bridge that is eventually gonna, some maintenance aspect to it if we could. Talk to Ron about that.
I think the bridge is probably the safest, even though it needs maintenance.
It is, it's nice, it's just the problem is where it meets the land.
Right. Can that be remediated? With some solid posts or something, a little bit more beefier.
It's the gravelly earth that's washed out from the corner is the problem. So I don't know how you, aside from supporting below and maybe like packing it with larger size, aggregate, loading it up from there. I don't know what you do.
Concrete footers or something, and then I don't know, there must be some sort of a solution.
It is, but it's an engineering and costly solution, but it's a wooden footbridge over a stream that's rarely more than an inch deep. It's like,
Yeah. Right. The water hardly ever passes that bridge. It hardly even makes it to that bridge ever.
other comments on Bird Park?
I was just reminded of one actually, as I was thinking about different areas. The culvert that sits below the soccer field. When I walk, I actually try to avoid that area. So so if you're about halfway down, or you're right about in the middle of the soccer field, and you're going down toward Youngwood, there's a culvert, the steep hillside, and I don't know where that originates. I think maybe it's from the stream that comes down from Beadling. And does that pipe run underneath the field and then daylight on the other side? It's actually right in the area, the fenced areas where the volunteers have just fenced in new plantings. Does anybody know where
Yeah,
Okay.
it's,
What
you're
about the
talking
one that
about,
has kind of like a
restoration area.
zigzag or V-shaped bridge over it?
Yes, yeah, it's really pretty. But as you're walking up toward Washington from that bridge, there's that pipe that opens up. Is there a way to scope it or have somebody go into that pipe to find out what is happening in there? It often smells like raw sewage in that area so badly that I often will avoid it, and not even after rains specifically or when it's really dry. But it is very offensive, and I just never even think, I oftentimes will smell it, and then I never even think to send you an email, Phil, just to question it. So that's a concern that I've had at least for a year that I thought I would mention. Oh, thank you. Yes. Yep. That's it. Right there. It's almost like, it almost smells like, actually last week or 2 weeks ago, I was walking by and I looked up the hill and thought, did the Porta-John like somehow get spilled out over here? I mean, it's really, it's interesting.
There's sanitary.
There's no sanitary there, no.
Yeah.
Storm
It's like, it should not smell like that because the sanitary line does not run there. So something's happening either in that hillside or in that pipe. But it's been it's a long-term, it's not just acute, it's been happening it's been at least a year on and off when I walk by.
For it.
Yeah. I don't know if you can camera it, but you can look into it or.
Yeah, well, there's no lines there. I mean, there's nothing in camera, because I'm looking at GIS right now.
There's no pipe?
There's a pipe and no storm sewer.
Yeah, no sanitary store.
No
There's
sanitary,
Sorry,
right?
there's sanitary, something like that.
Plus, it's just a swampy area that is
Mhm,
anaerobic with,
mhm.
decomposing organic material that has gone anaerobic, and it smells bad because it's giving off an odor.
It does get pretty swampy right there.
Yeah, so that may be it. It may just be
And it-
vegetation, decaying vegetation that's giving off
I mean, there could be animals that are.
sulfur dioxide smell. Could be that too.
Mhm.
I think if there's any question of whether it is some sewage connection, although it doesn't seem like, again, likely, but then maybe a test should be done by someone.
That's what?
Test for any, I guess, sewage runoff.
There's
mean,
no sewers there. That's what I'm trying to, if
Right.
maybe if you pinpoint it and give us a more precise location with the
Yeah, I
grids
can do that.
we have, let us know, and then we'll check it out.
I'll pull up that map with the the numbers. Quadrant map.
Yeah, that'd be helpful.
Okay. The steps going up the main path from the culvert where the sign is, the restoration sign, up to the school. Half of those steps are nice and, carved out, but over this past year, over the summer, those steps really were overgrown with weeds. And now the top 3 or 4 steps it's essentially just like almost a continuous slope, except for the treads on the step. So there's no more earthen tread. It's simply a wood step, earth, wood step, earth. So it's somewhat unsafe. And I'm wondering, I don't think it would be a significant amount of time to get those just kind of carved out. It probably would just take a shovel, a flat edge shovel, just to carve those out, just to get the treads on those top few steps leveled out for safety.
I know where you find that shovel.
Are you gonna meet me out there, Peter? We're gonna do that?
after I'm better. I'm a little sick right now.
Are you talking about the beeline going down there or?
Yes, I didn't know that had a name. Yep, that's it. Right, yep, above the B, above the B in bead line.
What do you say, Tom? Nature Conservancy Maintenance Project?
We'll see, or maybe just a couple wheelbarrows full of gravel.
I don't, yeah, I mean, you could do that for sure, but I think even just the temporary, well, that would be awesome. Because then you're taking all the soil out and filling it with gravel. That'd be great.
Now it's full of dirt. Is that what you're saying?
All full of dirt. During the summer, it was full of very, very high weeds. It got whacked down, but the earth is still, the soil has filled up the treads. So much so that it would make a very fun sledding hill. So I think that, yeah, the easy solution is just take a shovel out there, carve out the steps, 3 or 4 of them, the length of them. But if it could be added to a conservancy volunteer project, carve out, dig out the soil that's in all of those steps and fill it with gravel. That's a great idea.
I thought they were like railroad ties or timbers or something.
They are, yeah, the outside edge is a railroad tie, but then there's a 10 or 12-inch tread that's soil, filled with soil.
Anything else for Bird? I'm gonna push Main Park with Tennis Center out, because I don't want to rush it too much, and it's already past 8:15. Just these old business items, we've talked about communications and signage, unless Kelly, you had anything to add to what Phil already updated us on, or Peter. Forestry and invasives, had some back and forth in email with Tim Nuttall. He asked the question this week of, do we have any metrics on tree survival and growth performance with different types of protection? I think Richard has a sense of what works in his head. I don't know that he has it on paper. Probably Ron Block and Tom as well. I have some data from the Twin Hills cell plantings that I'll send him, but he is looking for some, concrete, like on the ground experience with different types of protection. So that's good. Park design guidelines and trail restoration. Kelly and Peter, Danya, next month. Maybe. I'll check in with you in a couple weeks. Main Park master plan, we heard from Phil on that, 3rd workshop. Rafferton restoration done. Danya, have you been over to Rafferton? Any comments?
Yes. The fields held up really well during the soccer season. And I spoke to some of the residents about parking, and people didn't have complaints, because Saturdays was crazy, but the evening parking too, they said they didn't mind as much. 2 weeks back, the soccer schedule had moved up, which kind of, I think, was after you aerated the field, Phil. So I'm not sure if having multiple soccer tournament games and it wasn't a great combination, but I don't know if we sort of undid any of the work that was done to maintain the turf. But there were a lot of good comments coming early part of the season with accessibility and having 2 nice playing fields. So
Little cleats, I'll push that seed down in the ground, so.
yeah, it got really muddy. It was that really cold Saturday, and parents and kids with cleats running around, and we realized that the field was just aerated, so it was really muddy. We were scraping stuff off of in between games, off of boots and shoes. So I don't know if the seeds survived all of that. The part that was closed off, nobody went in there. So which used to be the infield playing area, but the two fields and the area around it was stomped on really bad. So yeah.
Thanks, Tanya.
Okay.
Invasives in the municipal code, probably.
Yeah, still waiting for something to happen with the master plan, yes.
Comprehensive plan draft is out and available on Ascend Lebo. Please go and read it and submit your comments. I think some of the feedback we gave them had an effect based on the initial draft, so that's good. I didn't know Mindy was coming today, but perfect timing. I was watching the school board meeting the other day, October 9th, and they showed a slide of green initiatives. And one of the green initiatives noted is the prohibition of herbicides and pesticides. And I thought, well, that's interesting.
On
because
school district property.
on school district property, correct. So we have a great effort by Public Works to address knotweed at Main Park, and it is being successful. But we have a growing crop of knotweed
Right.
300, 400 yards away. That's no doubt blowing and drifting and trickling down into the park. So there's a history to that prohibition.
Yeah.
Totally valid. Understand the concerns. I don't use certain chemicals on my own property because my kids and the neighbors' kids are rolling around on it like it's a, indoor carpeting. However, we will never solve this problem if we don't employ the tools available that work. So I just wanted to put this out there for Parks Board, but since you're here, we went through this with them a little bit, a year and a half.
Yeah.
2 years ago. We did a survey, walked around the high school, gave a map, told them where different species were. Whatever came of it, is there any opportunity on this? Because also in the comp plan draft, they're hearing things and it's getting in there. I'll go back to what Kelly said about wild spaces. It has to be intentional. And the reference in the comp plan is intentional guidance for residents about their properties and reference to the PA noxious weed law. Because, where's it all going if it's left unconstrained, right? So any opportunity with the school district to re-engage on this topic, we have institutional knowledge now.
I think we could hit it from two angles, but I think it would be useful if the Parks Board would be willing to go to a school board meeting and just explain that this is not green. Like, what green is managing invasives. And it's a necessary tool that we all hate, but it is the only way to do a couple, there's a few invasives that don't work any other way. If they could hear that, I think from like experts, resident experts, that would be really helpful. And then I heard that it was, regarding your question about, or it was taken care of or going to be taken care of, but I don't know what that meant. Regarding not weed.
Methods too, but it's gotta keep at it.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that's the first question. Find out if they did anything. and what that was. My, you know, observation from the south parking lot is no, nothing changed. So I don't wanna. I'd like to have all the information perhaps before going and speak in public. Well, this is public, but you know,
Yeah, I think we're already in it. We're already having a public conversation about it,
Yeah,
and
that's
that's
true.
limiting what I can say right now. But either way, they have a law right now that says they can't use
Okay.
these chemicals, and we want them to use it.
okay,
So the best way to change that, I think, would be go right to the school board.
okay,
Yeah,
sounds good.
I mean, and that's what we want, right? The parks, I mean, we could take a vote. We could say that Mount Lebanon Parks Board is,
Yeah, maybe we'll bring it
it's
back.
recommending, yeah.
We'll bring it back for future discussion and get a message tightened up on it, and that we can all.
And there might be a couple of a couple members of the public that want to come and talk to us about it, that's a little bit a charged issue, but I think we can handle it, you guys. I won't handle it. You and Andrew, you guys and Andrew can handle it, if that's something that you're willing to, to take on.
Okay.
The municipality 100% backs you, like we all back this approach.
Yeah, I think that there's probably ways that we can come up with, if we make recommendations, we can come up with protocols. So if it is, we can use it again, we propose that maybe we're looking at, maybe it's the city of Pittsburgh, and because the city of Pittsburgh has a sustainability, they have a department, they have their own initiatives, and the Parks Conservancy, they are using herbicides to treat noxious weeds as well, but they do it in a certain way, they have protocols, and then if we're doing it on the schools, maybe we propose also that those areas are cordoned off for a certain amount of time. I think that there are ways that we can approach it and tell the whole story. So it almost becomes more of an educational moment, and then also helping to come up with standards that make sense, that others are that we believe are doing it, are also following sustainable practices. Or we can take a look at what they're doing and model after them.
Yeah, I love that.
I like it.
I love that. Educational moment. It's a conversation that's probably long overdue.
Yeah, and not only, just on the other side of it too, not only are, we think about where the invasive's going, but if we have, unfortunately, we have community members planting invasive plants, and invasives are being introduced in Bird Park and other natural areas, not so much in our managed parks, due to some plants that are being planted in our yards, our community yards. It really is a whole community. It's a full circle educational potentially, with the potential to educate people on the idea of invasives and how to manage.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll put it on.
Another thing for the work plan, the 2025.
Yeah, I'll put it on the agenda for a future meeting. Thank you.
Keep busy.
So, budget season, you got the schedule, for listening and commenting. There's also the Tuesday, every other Tuesday, commission meetings. Say this every month. If anybody's interested in going to a commission meeting, making a public comment, parks, happy to join them. Just for moral support. And that's it, unless anybody has anything else. I'll reschedule main park master plan, or main park visit at some point. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Aye. Right. We're on this. Right over the
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Good.